I'm back! Greetings, Worry Travelers! Welcome back to the Reaction Sleepover. This is the series where we get cozy and we react to stuff. I've been on vacation and I'm back now and I'm ready to get back into the ridiculousness. It was definitely a much needed break. I went and saw family. It was a great time. Very nice. And yeah, let's go. I asked you guys for stories that did not sound real, just sounds fake when you tell it to another person, because I thought that would be a fun prompt. I kind of like the idea of doing like prompts. Like, next I kind of want to do like, what's your favorite story, you know? Hopefully encourage some wholesome storytelling. You know, we've read a lot of stories that are like about entitled people and stuff, and it's, woo, can really be a downer. So I enjoy doing like the prompt idea. So without further ado, grab your cozies and snackies and let's head on into it. Behold our regular season sector. I love that you keep submitting stories. You're awesome, dude. This is Good Days Are Cursed. Hello again. Hello! Here's 2 stories that are hard to believe. This is in junior year around September, and so far everything was going good. Until the cursed event. It was looming. Ready to ruin your day. You ever feel like that? Like you're having a good day, but then like something just comes in and just smacks you with a brick. And you're like, why? I was doing perfectly well before you came in. First class in study hall passed when all of a sudden we started feeling nauseous and having raging headaches. We? Was someone gassing your class? You're caught in the middle of a spy movie. Surprise! Someone in your class is an evil mastermind and they were trying to capture them. And they had to take you all down with them for some reason. Poor spy behavior. 0 out of 10. We had no clue what was going on, so it was like 4th or 5th class, and all of a sudden, the fire alarm was going off. We all thought at first, is this a fire drill? Like, wow, they're really stepping up the realism. Let me guess, it was an actual fire. Ooh, I'll never forget. So in college, I think it was my freshman year, because that was when I was in the dorm, which is now rubble. It is gone now. Dude, that's happened to me so much. It weirds me out. All of my schools have either been knocked down or changed tremendously. Like my high school, knocked down. My middle school, knocked down. Everything I touched is cursed. They must knock it down. They can't bear to have the tomfoolery energy out there. The only one that's still up is my elementary school, and even then they changed that a lot, so it's not the same. Anyway, I literally went off on a second tangent before even doing my first tangent. Welcome to PocoMuses. Anyway, so freshman year of college, I was in bed. It was like 11 o'clock at night, and it was snowing outside. So even better. The fire alarm went off, and I remember it was literally as I was about to go to sleep. And as someone who struggles with insomnia, that made me mad. So we all had to go outside in the snow at 11 o'clock at night. And I remember when they were describing, like, oh, when fire drill happens, you gotta go. Even if you're in the shower, you have to put a towel on and go. And there were people who were like that. Poor things. In the snow! It was the best night of my life. Anyway, 2 tangents done. It's gonna be so funny watching and editing, like how I went on the first tangent, but then like I was reminded of all the other connections I make. I make connections so quickly. I'll be talking to my husband. He's just like, I don't know how, like, you're hard to follow. I probably am, honestly. It's like, it makes sense in my head. Like, keep up, grandma, this brain train ain't slowing down for no one. Anyway, no wonder my videos are so long. It shouldn't be, because we already did our monthly fire drill and the teachers told us to grab our items. And we were like, hey, what's going on? And it turns out that a freshman or sophomore let the gas on with the Bunsen burners, and we literally got gassed. I told you, criminal mastermind. The spies are after them. Yeah, that's not terrifying at all. Although really, like, this person must have been so embarrassed. I wonder if they told anyone. Just like, oh, someone left the Bunsen burners on. They're like, oh, so dumb. So next day comes around, and again, so far everything is good again, which at the school should have been a warning sign, when all of a sudden the intercoms are saying code yellow, which only apply to medical emergencies, right? Medical emergencies, a suspicious looking item, the inmate at the adult detection facility down the road, bust out, you know, the usual casual stuff. It's like all of the above. An inmate busts out, has a suspicious looking item, and he's having a medical emergency. It was Colonel Mustard with the candlestick at the school. Suddenly, it's a Jumanji situation, wherein Clue tried to escape. Seriously, at that school from 2011 when I started my second half of freshman year till 2015 when I graduated, there have been so many code yellow lockdowns, it could have been a reality show on A&E. Wonder why? Do you know how many, like, what all the situations were, because you knew this first one was the Bunsen burners. You're at the school just like, I can't catch a break, man. Seriously, every other day, like, you're tired enough, it's like 7 in the morning, you're trying to take a nap during first period, and go into the microphone saying, code yellow! You're like, that's the 5th time today! Let me sleep! This isn't the 2 major stories from the hee-hee school, it is the micro story. The hee-hee schools. Alright, next! This is Unbelievable Camp Legend. Are you breaking the cardinal rule? The sacred bond of bandos? In revealing that one time at band camp? Blaspheme! I have a very uncommon name for my age. I'm named after my grandmother's, so while my name isn't odd, it's definitely associated with old ladies. My last name is also uncommon but familiar. Think along the lines of Agatha Frances Burr. Honestly, Agatha's kind of a nice name though. I feel like there's a lot of older names that are actually like, oh, that's kind of cool, you know? Although, isn't it so weird? Like, older person name or just like a grown-up name. And you're so used to seeing it on an adult or an older person. So when like someone names their child that name and you see this baby, this child that has a grown-up name, you're like, no. There are no Frank or Sharon babies. They just come into existence. They are fully grown adults that burst from the ground. I don't make the rules. In high school, when I was ready to get my first driver's license in Massachusetts, I was denied. Denied? They said I had the lost privilege because I was truant in Tennessee. I had never lived in Tennessee. What do you mean? That's not me! I am from the South, but never Tennessee. My mom made some phone calls and we learned that there is another Agatha Frances Burr with my exact same birthday? No way! That is both cool but also really freaky. What are the chances? Chances of that gotta be so low. You guys meet up and it's like, we duel at dawn, you imposter. To the death! There can only be one! At the time, my mom giving a physical description over the phone to the DMV in Tennessee was enough. Imagine if that wasn't enough.
Prove it!
They say the same thing. There can only be one. It's a conspiracy. They cloned her so that they could deny her a driver's license. Just for that purpose. That's it. They have access to cloning technology and all they want to do is mess with some kid. Thankfully, she and I have very different features. They even added a special note to my official file to prevent future confusions. All according to plan. Fast forward several years to when I was chaperoning a group of 12 to 14-year-old boys on a trip to Quebec? That's how you say it, right? This is before passports were required to enter Canada. That's so weird. That's kind of like how security wasn't always a thing at the airport. That's right. It wasn't always a thing. You could just go in. That's so crazy. So I only had my driver's license, this one from Texas. At the border crossing, the officials asked us to park and have all the adults enter the guard building to check in while the kids waited in the vans. In the vans? That doesn't seem safe. I guess there would be guards around. The kids are like, see ya, suckers! All according to plan. The paperwork went smoothly until they got to me. What has your clone done now? They paused and asked if I had a passport. I told them I did, but not with me. They frowned and looked back at their computer. I quickly figured out it was because of the other Agatha Frances Burr. She's like in prison for grand larceny. I'd had to prove I wasn't her a few times since the initial incident. I suggested a physical description because that usually worked, but the guard said that wouldn't do because people lie. It's Mission Impossible. She's wearing a mask. They made phone calls in the back room and tried other ideas. A social security card? A different ID? Nope. I had nothing but my license. Oh, that's the worst. Oh, dude, so embarrassing. Okay, so we went and visited my family, right? And we wanted to go onto the military base to go swim because, you know, it's the thing we always did. And I was like, oh, I don't need my ID because, like, in the past, you're able to just go through with a sponsor, which in this case was my mom because, you know, she's married to my dad. He's retired, all that. So I was like, I'll be fine. Then we get there and it was 100% ID checks. It was so embarrassing because literally everyone else had their ID and I did not. And I even had a chance. We were at like a roundabout where I was like, what if I do need my ID? We had a chance to go back. And we didn't. The guy was really nice, and I think part of this was probably because it was busy, so he just wanted us to go through. But like, he was really nice. He really didn't have to do this, but he let us through. I sat sheepishly in the car, just like, I'm so sorry. I don't have it. The one time, every other time I have my ID on me, because you never know. The one time I did not have it on me. So embarrassing. Anyway. Meanwhile, the other chaperones had no idea what to make of this. I was the only female on the trip, and since I was quiet, Most of the guys had made the mistaken assumption that I was shy and sheltered. Think again, bucko! So every time the guards disappeared into the back room, then reappeared with another question, it got harder and harder to hold back their laughter. They found it even more unbelievable that I knew what was happening. After a frighteningly long time, they asked if I had any tattoos, and if I got them in prison. I did not, and they had me pull up my sleeves so they can verify my shoulders are clean. Relieved, one of the guards told me I should never get a tattoo. Okay. Oh, I thought it was the guards laughing. It was the other chaperones. I see, I see. You're like, I've been through this before. Turns into a noir, as the whiskey and cigarette in hand. I've been through this before. There was a time where I was mistaken for another. You wouldn't believe how long it would take them to be convinced that I was not this person. But still, I stuck up for myself anyway. Because I knew I couldn't be stopped. I don't even know what I'm saying. Finished off with a piece of unsolicited advice. Also, relieved? Why were they so relieved that it wasn't you? What has the other Agatha done? I have so many questions. The chaperones laughed about that the rest of the week. They and the kids told everyone about it once we returned to the camp. A friend told me they went to a camp reunion 10 or so years later, and the story of Agatha needing to show her shoulders in order to get into Canada was still being told. I mean, it's kind of a ridiculous story. I love that you've run into two different situations where you were confused by this person. The second seemed to be much more dramatic. To this day, I have no idea what the other Agatha Frances Burr had been up to. And I'm quite scared to know. I'm both very curious and very frightened. Because if the guard was like relieved that it wasn't you, what has she done? And why does it involve Canada? Grand larceny and then tried to escape. That's my headcanon. So this is by Gura Vager on Instagram. And they said, it's not necessary, but if anyone has questions, they can reach me at their Instagram. Intriguing. That time I saved someone's life and they screwed me over. Oh look, it's Judas. Good old Judas. Happy New Year. The story I'm about to tell you is going to sound absolutely insane, and its end is a bit bittersweet, but there's an important lesson to learn, especially for those who have trauma from abuse. My family comes from India, and I'm a first-generation Canadian. Therefore, I was raised in this sort of mixed culture where I would speak my mother tongue, Punjabi, at home, while being in French school and learning English from TV and everyone around me. Yeah, that'd be a lot. But that's the thing, if you just like learn pretty early on, I imagine you were young at this point. Yeah, I think the earlier you start and you just like assimilate it into your everyday life, like you can learn quite a bit of languages. We were one of the first Indian families in my town. I had no other Indian friends. I say this because my ancestral culture is pretty relevant to what happened. Sheesh, living in Virginia is getting to me. I say this because my ancestral culture is pretty relevant in what happened. A few years ago, I was unfortunately let go of a translating job I had, and I wasn't able to collect any of my work when they laid me off, so I had no evidence of my efforts, which is just like having your resume wiped. Screw you too, bucko. That's the worst. How are you not able to collect any of your... Like, you worked there. That should not be legal. Okay. Who do I need to fight? I was distraught and was ugly crying in the shower. We've all been there. Your entire face is just puffy the next day. I hate that. Like, honestly, my relationship with crying has improved over the years, but I still hate. Like, if I cry, like, too late at night, the next day, I'm like a balloon. Because then I look like I ate a bunch of bees. I was ugly crying in the shower when I felt this warmth wrap around me like being cupped by a giant. There was this mixed feeling of comfort and support, but also tremendous fear. I heard this booming voice echo from the back of my mind. It's okay. This was supposed to happen. You're fine. Congratulations on making it so far this time. I was speechless, wondering if something I ate was laced or if I was having a psychotic break. I asked this voice, who are you? And it said, your family knows me by many names, but you can call me... I'm so sorry, I'm probably gonna butcher this. Brahman Spati? So you're like, am I having a spiritual experience or am I just officially losing it? I had no idea who or what that was. The Punjab region of India is monotheistic and I didn't know that name at all. But when I looked it up after, in ancient India horoscopes, each constellation has a lesser god that watches over the planet for a couple of days. Brahman Spati is the name of the god who oversaw my arrival. Interesting. Now, every time I meditate under a stream of water, like a monk under a waterfall, I gain this communion with my divine guide. I am a water sign, and I had no idea that it literally meant I should use water as a medium to seek heavenly counsel, but here we are. That's really cool. I asked my god what I was supposed to do next, and I was shown a vision of a man on his knees begging for help, and then this mountain range. They said, when you see that mountain range, you are where you're supposed to be. Aw, that's cool. And similar with like that, like you are exactly where you're supposed to be, you're doing fine. Congrats on how far you've made it so far. Aw, that's so nice. 3 days later, someone messages me on a dating app I haven't used in a while. You're like wiping off the dust. Who are you? But they were older and sounded like they just needed someone to talk to, and they were just a few minutes from my place out of the city in the agricultural area. I say yes to having coffee and meeting his dog. Oh, puppy. But when I get there and see him, I knew he was the person I saw in my vision. No way. That's crazy. What a surreal experience that would be, especially when you're like actually see him for the first time. You're like, drool's falling from your mouth. He's like, are you okay? You're like, I'm fine. You have to get over your stupor. This man had gone through it. He was living with an abusive partner who was cheating on him and spending his income on substances, and he was so defeated, but I had this feeling in my gut things were worse than that. I told him he needed to go to the doctor ASAP because there was something going on with him. He luckily trusted my opinion, and when he saw the doctor, they did a scan on him. They found he had stage 2 testicular cancer and he needed a surgery to remove one. Wow. He told me I saved his life and to come over more often because I must have been an angel sent to him. It's so sweet. When I went to his house next through his dining room window, I saw that exact mountain range, so I couldn't deny that something wanted me there. That is so cool. The intuition, man, is strong with you. In this entire situation, there was this ongoing theme of him being unaware / incapable of looking after himself. And I learned later that he had CPTSD, where his traumas affected him so deeply that he was like a walking punching bag for his family, ex, and even his friends. Let me at him! Well, I'm really glad you could have been there for him because it sounds like he really needed just a genuine friend. Shame on you people mistreating him! I spent the next 3 years during COVID helping him heal and find his voice, but I knew that if he didn't take any agency over himself, then no matter what I do to help, he would seek out manipulative people to trust. I'm so glad you point that out. That is so important because like it's so wonderful to help those you care about, your loved ones, or in a situation like this where like you meet someone new and, you know, you're kind enough to help them. But at a certain point, there's that saying where you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink it. Same thing. Like, it's so wonderful that you're helping him, but I'm so glad that you try to instill that healthy mindset that like, I will help you where I can, but you can trust yourself to carry yourself through it. Because everybody has that like personal responsibility that like, there is nothing wrong with having help. Like, absolutely get help where you need, but also try your best to trust yourself that you know that you can do it, that you can heal the parts of yourself that you can only do yourself, you know? That part can be so hard, but can be so important for like, yeah, if he doesn't take agency for himself, he would seek out manipulative people because of like that outsourcing. Because like once you feel really solid in yourself, then he can trust himself. And so he'll be less prone to manipulation. And that's so important. Remember that you are capable of trusting yourself and taking care of yourself. Even when you feel like you can't, absolutely get the help you need, but like try just as much as you can to trust yourself and to have compassion for yourself and do that healing work, you know? I am so glad you could have been there for him in that regard too, because that's so, so crucial. I learned that CPTSD changes what our perception of normal is, and someone who hasn't started to work on healing or finding their voice is doomed to fall back into abusive situations. And that's part of that, like we're saying, doing that work, it can be really hard, but is so important to have a very solid foundation to then make sure that you protect yourself from those situations. When things stopped becoming easy for him, he started to blame me for all his misfortune, and I discovered that he was abusing substances himself. Ah, that's so hard. My last day with him was when I asked if he was okay and he punched me. Oh, I'm a black belt, and I had him on the ground within a minute. I called 911. Well, I'm glad you were able to protect yourself. That's so hard because that first part of that paragraph is so poignant to me. Poignant? Is that how you say it? Yeah, but like when things stop becoming easy for him, like when healing gets to a point where it's getting harder, it can be really, really difficult to keep going. But again, that personal responsibility that like, especially if it gets to the point where you start hurting yourself or others, you gotta keep going. And it's hard, but healing is so important, because especially when it gets to that point that like what you've been through doesn't justify hurting other people physically as well as any other way. As you said, like that was your last day with him. I hope he's been able to continue his healing, because what was done to him was absolutely not fair and that he deserved better than that. Using your pain to mistreat other people is never okay. So I hope he can continue to do that work. Because like you said, this was not a good situation for you anymore to be involved. yeah, I really hope he's been able to find some peace so that he can give himself some peace. I honestly didn't anticipate his violent outbursts since I helped him recover from his cancer, but that was when I had to leave behind everything I built in 3 years. 3 years, dang. Yeah, after all that time, you built that connection and then having to like cut off from that. That must have been so hard. And I can just so tell, like reading this, that you tried your best, but I am also going to say you did a very good job maintaining important boundaries. You recognized and told him that like, I can't do this for you, and you tried to encourage him to do it himself. And then when unfortunately it wasn't working, you got yourself out of a unfortunately, at points, became a dangerous situation. And, you know, we can have that nuance of like, we feel for him because we recognize that what was done to him wasn't his fault and that he is experiencing a lot of pain. But also, it's not okay for him to then use that pain to hurt others, because that doesn't justify that. Because that only perpetuates the hate cycle, the pain cycle. And I'm a huge advocate of doing what we can to stop these cycles of hate and pain. And a lot of that has to start with you know, how you are doing, and recognizing, is there anything I'm doing that is hurting others because of my pain? Because that takes a lot of strength to do. It's probably one of the bravest things you will ever do, but please do your best to do it, because I genuinely believe that the more everyone can learn to love themselves, all of themselves, even the parts that we don't love so much, the better the world can be, because secure people don't mistreat others. And I seriously love your example of doing your best, but then again, having boundaries and stepping back when it was time for you to step back. Because we also need to protect ourselves as much as we want to help other people. I learned that the people in this world you need to be most cautious of are the ones who are closest to you, and you cannot outrun your fate, you can only challenge it head on. I appreciate that sentiment. I think like anything that can go too far, right? Like we shouldn't like push away our loved ones, push away the people who are closest to us. But at the same time, don't let them walk all over you, right? There is a way to find that middle ground, and it takes a lot of work to find it, but you can find it. I love like, you can't outrun your fate! But there is something to be said about when you need to face something, that also takes a lot of bravery to do it. But the more you can face it, the more you can process it and find peace from it. Because that's very true in mental health, right? That like the more that we show up for ourselves, the better we can heal those wounded parts of ourselves. And again, the more we can meet ourselves with that compassion and that curiosity and learn to give ourselves genuine self-love and self-care, I really think this world can be better. And I want to believe in that. I believe! Also, I get this was a life lesson, but the gods I met 100% give me the same petty energy as karma, so at least that is consistent. Oh yeah, and then the title of the story, the time I saved someone's life and they screwed me over. Yeah, I completely forgot about the title. Yeah, that unfortunately can happen, but I hope that experience didn't harden you from still helping others, because, you know, even though it didn't work out how we would have liked, right? Like we would have liked him to be able to continue his healing journey and live his best life, all of that. But sometimes that doesn't happen. Sometimes people go through like a regression period, because healing isn't linear, right? Sometimes you go up and down and you take 2 steps back and then 1 step forward, and sometimes 3 steps back. But I hope that you can still remember that you still made a meaningful impact in his life. And hopefully in the future, he can remember that, and remember that there is hope for him, and that he can live his best life, and that he can heal from these experiences. And that, yeah, I hope this experience didn't close you off from helping people in the future, and, you know, since this, however long ago this was. Because what you did was still so meaningful and still so impactful, and I really love the way you did it, because you helped him, but you had very important boundaries, because those are so important when it comes to helping other people in bad situations. I very much want to believe in people. I want to believe in humanity, even though sometimes it's really hard. But I really believe in the power of healing and in love, all those good things, the power of us meeting all parts of ourselves, even the parts that we don't love, because that is to be human, right? That we all have those bad parts within ourselves. And I know just as anyone how difficult it can be to love all the parts of yourselves, because there are some parts of me that I still struggle to like about me, but still so important to still try and to still show up with, again, that curiosity and that compassion, and, you know, to find that nuance between I hope the best for you, and I will do what I can to help you, but I will only do what's going to be healthy and safe for me, because that is super important, especially, you know, in a lot of ways, especially when it comes to the people closest to you. Because I think when we're closer to people, the more we want to help, right? The more we want to get involved, and that's good. It's good that you care, but take care of yourself too. Such as anything in life, it's a very, very delicate balance, but I believe in us. We can get there. Anywho, like the end of the story, became a bit of a life lesson, but you know what? That's what I really like about these stories is like we read them and we have fun and stuff, but we also learn something. I think there's a lot to be said about what we can learn from stories. That's why I really like stories. Like in these settings, even in stuff like movies, shows, books, there's always something to be learned from stories. And I think that's where they hold a lot of power, because we can learn things that can then help us to do better, be better, all that good stuff. All that good stuff. But anyway, yeah, I know that became a little more existential towards the end there, but I think, you know, I like it. I think it's good. So I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something to help yourself, help others, all that good stuff. If you have any stories that sound crazy, that just don't sound real when you tell it to another person, go to the Google form or email me. I would love to read them, or submit any other story you like. I'd read anything you think would be like either like fun or informative, anything. I'll read anything, give it to me. The story goblin wants your stories. But anyway, that's gonna be it for today's video. And as per usual, I hope you're doing well, but if not, I hope this video has brightened your day at least a little bit. Take care of yourselves and each other, do your best to be a good human, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye!